Ram ki jai, Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai, Sangha Veda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the December devotees, glories to the December devotees, all glories to the December devotees, all glories to Sri Sri Guru Gauranga, glories to Sri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. This morning I read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, entitled Narada's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam, text number 15. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jugupsitam dharma krite nisashtata. Jugupsitam dharma krite nisashtata. Svabhavaraktasya maham vyaktraman. Svabhavaraktasya maham Vakti Rakrama. Yadvakyato dharma iti tarastito. Yadvaktayato dharma viti tarasaro. Namanyate tasya nivaranam janan. Namanyate tasya nivaranam jana. Jugupsitam dharma krite nishasata. Svabhavaraktasya mahan vyakikrama. Yadvakyato dharma itatarastito. Namanyate tasya nivaranam jana. Jugupsitam dharma krite nishasata. Svabhavaraktasya mahan bhaktikrama. Yadvakyato dharma itatarastito. Namanyate tasya nivaranam jana. Yadvakyato dharma krite nishasata. Svabhavaraktasya mahan bhaktikrama. Bhaktino dharma itatarastaro. Amyate tasya nivaranam jana. Svabhavaraktasya mahan vyaktirama. Mataji. Jugupsitam, verily condemned, dharma krite, for the matter of religion, anusashataha, instruction, swabhava, raktasya, naturally inclined, mahan, great, vyaktikrama, unreasonable, yat vyaktaha, under whose instructions, dharma, religion, iti, it is thus, ittara, the people in general, shtitaha, fixed, na, do not, manyate, think, tasya, of that, nivaranam, prohibition, jana, they. Translation: the people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way, in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Please repeat. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way, in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are misguided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Prabhupada Swankar Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's compilation of different Vedic literatures on the basis of regulative performances of fruitive activities, as depicted in the Mahabharata and other literature, is condemned herewith by Srila Narada. Can you hear me? Okay? The human beings, by long material association, life after life, have a natural inclination by practice to endeavor to lord it over material energy. They have no sense of the responsibility of human life. This human form of life is a chance to get out of the clutches of illusory matter. The Vedas are meant for going back to Godhead, going back home, to evolve in the cycle of transmigration in a series of lives numbering 8,400,000 is an imprisoned life for the condemned conditional souls. The human form of life is a chance to get out of this imprisoned life, and as such, the only occupation of the human being is to re-establish his lost relationship with God. Under the circumstances, one should never be encouraged in making a plan for sense enjoyment in the name of religious functions. Such diversion of the human energy results in a misguided civilization. Srila Vyasadeva is the authority in Vedic explanations, in the Mahabharata, etc. And his encouragement in sense enjoyment in some form or other is a great barrier for spiritual advancement, because the people in general will not agree to renounce material activities which hold them in material bondage. At a certain stage of human civilization, when such material activities in the name of religion, as sacrificing animals in the name of yoga, they were too much rampant, the Lord incarnated himself as Buddha and decried the authority of the Vedas in order to stop animal sacrifice in the name of religion. This was foreseen by Narada, and therefore he condemned such literatures. The flesh eaters will continue to perform animal sacrifice before some demigod or goddess in the name of religion, because in some of the Vedic literatures, such regulated sacrifices are recommended. They are so recommended to discourage flesh eating, but gradually the purpose of such religious activities is forgotten, and the slaughterhouse becomes prominent. This is because foolish materialist men do not care to listen to others who are actually in a position to explain the Vedic rites. In the Vedas, it is distinctly said that the perfection of life is never to be attained either by voluminous work or by the accumulation of wealth, or even by increasing the population. But it is so attained only by renunciation. The materialistic men do not care to listen to such injunctions. According to them, the so-called renounced order of life is meant for those who are unable to earn their livelihood because of some corporeal defects, or for persons who have failed to achieve prosperity in family life. In histories, like the Mahabharata, of course, there are many topics on transcendental subjects along with material topics. The Bhagavad Gita is there in the Mahabharata. The whole idea of the Mahabharata culminates in the ultimate instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, that one should relinquish all other engagements and should engage oneself solely and fully in surrendering unto the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. But men with materialistic tendencies are more attracted to the politics, economics, and philanthropic activities mentioned in the Mahabharata than to the principal topic, namely the Bhagavad Gita. This compromising spirit of Vyasadeva is directly condemned by Narada, who advises him to directly proclaim that the prime necessity of human life is to realize one's eternal relation with the Lord, and thus surrender unto him without delay. A patient suffering from a particular type of malady is almost always inclined to accept eatables which are forbidden for him. The expert physician does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not take at all take. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a man attached to fruitive work should not be discouraged from his occupation, for gradually he may be elevated to the position of self-realization. This is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry empiric philosophers without spiritual realization, but those who are in the devotional line need not be always so advised. In the purport. Om Agyanan Tanandasya Agyanan Gyanan Shalakaya Chakshurunamijamne Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Vadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutare Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitya Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bacharine Ne Vishesha Shandavari Passarisatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instruction, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Here, Narada Muni is answering the question of Vyasadeva, that he's feeling despondent, even though nothing is unknown to him, and he's written all the Vedas, all the religious scriptures, and he follows. But still he's not feeling completely satisfied. And then now his guru Narada Muni is telling the defect. That the Vedas mainly deal with the modes of nature, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, and they're dealing with the four main principles of Dhamma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. These are the four perfections. Because here it says the people in general, they're naturally inclined to enjoy. And enjoy. Now in the material world we have that desire to enjoy independently from the Lord. The desire to enjoy is not unnatural. And under Chinmoy Bhyasat, the living entity is by nature an enjoyer. It's a part of Krishna. Krishna is the main business is enjoying. And that would be our main business. If we had the facility and the opportunity, we would enjoy. Right? Prabhupada said, if you could have a pill and you won't die, immediately you stop work. So everyone likes to take nobody likes to work. It's just a matter of necessity to make that desire to enjoy, or even to exist, one has to work. Otherwise one is in great difficulty. So he says, if you teach, by teaching these upadhamas, sub-religious principles, not very evolved religious principles, it's not going to do much good for the people. Because you've excluded the essence, or the actual meaning, the actual purpose of the Vedas, which is to know Krishna. Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita, by the Vedas, I am to be known. And so that's what the purpose of the Vedas is actually to understand Krishna. But most of the Vedas, they don't say that. Most of the Vedas are telling you how to deal with the mainly dealing with Dhamma and Artha. Because from Dhamma comes Artha, facility. From that facility you can enjoy karma. So this is what the people are interested in. So they take to Dharma for their karma. So they forget the essence is to know Krishna or mukti. Moksha, that's the final perfection. But not many, they're not interested. Who's interested in moksha, actually? How many people do you know are interested in moksha or being liberated from material modes of men? Not many, right? Really. People are just getting on with their lives, and so in essence, Narada is saying you've encouraged them in this way, that enjoying spirit, saying yes, you can enjoy it, but you should enjoy it in a religious way. And then at the end you'll get moksha. But the principle is to enjoy. So most of the Vedas are talking about these subjects. And the portions that are dealing with liberation, the moksha, they're not so much, because not many people are interested. People don't want any botheration, right? Generally, we don't like any difficulties or tapasyas. We're always looking for a shortcut, right? To try to cut corners, to trim down the difficulties. And seeing the Vedas, they're presenting two paths: the path of pravritti marg and the path of nivritti marg. And the path of pravritti marg, of enjoyment, is very vast. So that's mainly what the Vedas are talking about. So then naturally people, they're going to hear more about that. So they're not inclined interested in. They will hardly care for prohibitions. Naturally, who likes prohibitions? We want freedom, right? We want to express our freedom. We don't want prohibitions. It's not a very nice word, right? You don't want prohibitions. You want to do as you want to do. You want independence. You want freedom. But of course, such things, the actual prohibitions, they're from the nivritti marg mainly. Because these they're prohibiting one from performing activities that will lead one back into the material world. But this is like the long-term view. But people are not so much interested in that. They're more interested in what we can get now. So Narada is saying, you're given all these different systems and their results. The people just get stuck on that particular process because it offers a good result. They don't actually know. They don't actually hear or understand the essence of what the actual purpose of it. They don't. He said you've given them an incomplete information. You haven't given them the full picture. The full picture is, as Prabhu mentions here, the essence of the Mahabharata is contained in the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very small portion of the Mahabharata, but it is the instructions directly spoken by the Lord Himself. So no one knows the Siddhanta, the purpose of anything, better than the Lord Himself. That was mentioned before. One should accept those instructions, the best instructions, because the instructions are coming from different sages, different lines, different Prajapatis. But the best instructions are those which are directly given by the Lord Himself. So that would be the Bhagavad Gita, are quite extensive in instructions given there, quite concise. And that leads to giving up all these other processes. Savadhaman prityaja mam ekam, Krishna says, give up all the other processes, then surrender unto me. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that Narada, because he's a Trikala Gyan, he can see into the future, so he knows what will happen in the future if people are misled, like if they're not given the complete picture. And Prabhupada mentions he was thinking about the Buddha incarnation. The Lord incarnated as Buddha to take people away from the Vedas. Right? The Vedas are to know the Lord. The Lord appears and says, don't listen to the Veda, don't follow the Veda. It seems like a contradictory thing. But because they were stuck on the Vedic ritual of sacrificing animal. So that can be interpreted. Then if you sacrifice the animal, then you have prasad. Right? So then you can eat the prasadam. So that became the main thing. Sacrifice is, yeah, that's good. Sacrifice is good. So then it became very popular. It became rampant. Meat eating, at the beginning of Kali Yuga. So then the Lord had to set it right again. So they said that when the Yavanas were told you shouldn't eat meat, it's sinful. They said, no, it's not sinful. It's religious. Look, here it is, Vedic injunction. Make this sacrifice, you can take up the prasadam. It's a religious injunction to eat meat. So they miss the essence of it, they've taken a part of it, and that becomes the prohibition. It's actually prohibited, but they're going to eat meat at any cost. So then for those people, okay, you can eat meat. There's a what's it called? What's the word? Adjustment. What am I looking for? What is the word I'm looking for? Replacement, adjustment, concession. Sorry, concession. Right? They're gonna do it anyway. So give them a concession. They're not going to stop. Okay, but there's a concession. You can eat meat, but do it like this. So there's some rule, there's regulation. And you offer it to the demigod, Kali, demigoddess Kali. But there's the regulation, the regulation is once in a month. Right? Dark moon night, you worship Kali on the dark moon night. So you kill the animal on the dark moon night, yourself. You kill the animal yourself, you whisper in the animal's ear, I'm taking your life, Mangsha. In next life you will come and take my life. Then you take the life of the animal, then you offer it to Kali. And then you can enjoy it. And you don't go to hell. Because you did it you did it in a religious way. In the scripture there. So they've missed the actual essence. That's what they get stuck on. That we can eat it. We can eat meat, and we won't go to hell. Of course, the animal will come back and take our life in the next life, but that's maybe worthwhile. Good taste. But that's the consciousness of the people that you're dealing with. So at least they're following some system that actually surrendering to the Vedas. They're actually surrendering to the injunction. Indirectly, they're surrendering to Krishna, but it's quite far removed. Not a great surrender, just because they're not even thinking of Krishna. But they are following the instructions in the Veda, which is given by Krishna, given by the Lord, inspired by the Vasudeva's an empowered incarnation. So then the Lord Buddha had to preach a philosophy which denied the Vedas, because this is our Vedic religion. So he said, forget Veda, listen to me. He's a great self-realized sage. Who's not going to listen to him? Right? If you're going to meet this great self-realized person, you're going to believe what he says for sure. Right? Powerful. So he says, don't forget the Vedas. Listen to me. You practice ahimsa. Give it up. So then they stopped. So then he did it. But the problem is, then no one was following the Vedas. There was no real direction. So then then he had to come back to the Vedas again, so that was the job of Lord Shiva. He came to bewilder the Buddhists and bring them back to the Veda. But the more essential parts of the Veda, at least they stopped their meat eating, animal killing. And so he preached. That you should follow the Veda. But he said, Buddha said, follow the Vedas. No, it's the same thing. They said, Buddha said there's no God. He said, yeah, there's no God. Yeah, but there's the Brahman is there, the absolute truth is there, but it has no qualities, no form, no attributes, just Satchidananda, just there. He couldn't even preach Satchidananda already because the Buddhist is nirvana, niraka, nothing. Right? The goal is nothing. Nothing. What a goal. What a goal. You dedicate your life for nothing. Nobody wants nothing. Right? But that's the end result in Buddhism. Sunyavad. Nothing. As far as I understand. But Shankar said, no, there is something. There is Satchidananda. There is something. But you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it. But when you realize, when you get the realization, drive away your ignorance by knowledge, then you can actually appreciate it. So it's called covered Buddhism, Mayavad. Covered Buddhism. It's saying the same thing. There's no God, no personality of Godhead, no relationship, no service to Him. He's saying the same thing. So although he says there is a God, this impersonal aspect of the Lord. It's like the modern religions of Islam and Christianity. They're supposed to be personal, but you can't know who God is. So for all intents and purposes, there might as well be no God, because you can't know God. If He wasn't revealed by the Prophet or the Son, then you can't know Him. Maybe when you go back. But so for all intents and purposes, there might as well be no God. So this is the so Narada said, people are naturally inclined to enjoy in the material world. And now you're giving them a scope to enjoy in a religious way. Then they won't feel bad about it. Actually, they'd be pious. They'd be considered great, people. So you also get that side of it, the respect of being a very pious person. You're following the scripture very nicely. So you can also enjoy on that level also, as well as enjoy the gross senses. So he said this is, he says it's quite unreasonable. Because, especially coming from you, Vyasadeva, he's the authority, right? The greatest, coming from you. Now, they've taken a little bit of what you said, and that's their religion. Whatever a great man does, the common people will follow. So you should give something. Now you should give the complete picture, a bigger picture. You should tell about the actual purpose of human life is meant for self-realization, God realization, understanding one's relationship with the Lord. And that's the very beginning of Bhagavatam. He says, Dhamma Poticetava, that it kicks out there's cheating religions, which are not directly saying we should surrender to Krishna. That's how it begins. The Bhagavatam begins, because he's learned from his previous writings that he's been misleading people. So now he's not going to take any chances on the instructions of his guru. He's going to directly say, in his Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. It starts off, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. Surrender to him, kick out all cheating religions, all these other religions that don't bring you to that, bring you to the point of love of Krishna. So Bhagavatam says Bhagavatam will not cheat you like the other scriptures. Of course, it wasn't Vyasadev's intention to cheat people. He thought it was the best thing to do because, you know, they're all enjoyers in the material world. So at least he's connecting them and bringing them back. And we do the same thing in ISKCON, right? What do you call it? Bridge preaching? Soft style preaching? You're giving seminars on yoga or the art of mind control, or is that condemned or is it not? You know, the people out there. We have any answers for that from our learned audience? It should be condemned, or it's popular? We make devotees, right? We're making devotees through these different teaching yoga, teaching psychology, teaching the art of mind control, all those things, so many. Right? They should be condemned or should be stopped? Say it. Huh? Popular. They're bringing people in. But Narada's condemning it here. Whose side should we take? What should we do? Should we follow Narada, or we should follow what's the flow, the trend? Of course, the Prabhu says at the end of the purport that he's talking about the patient is suffering from something, and so the doctor gives a diet. Things you can't eat these things. They're going to be bad for you. Don't eat them. Even if you like them, don't do it. Even a little bit you don't take. But then Prabhupada says at the end, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is also said that a man attached to fruitive work should not be discouraged from his occupation. Right? Krishna says so. They should not be discouraged. Those who worship the demigods, they're less intelligent, but you shouldn't discourage them because they're progressive. They're worshipping and they're accepting authority. For gradually he may be elevated to a position of self-realization. It didn't work for Vyasadeva. I mean, his guru wasn't speaking like this. But the last sentence, Prabhupada said, this is sometimes applicable for those who are only dry empiric philosophers without spiritual realization. But those who are in devotional line need not always be so advised. You don't have to advise the devotees about these things. So sometimes there's the loophole, sometimes. For those, it's sometimes applicable for those who are dry empiric philosophers or non-devotees. Then there is an opening there for the non-devotees. But for the devotees, no need. They're all engaged in service to Krishna, which is the ultimate point of the Vedas, which is the ultimate point of all the rules and regulations, to bring you to the point of surrender to Krishna. It's like we heard yesterday in Odom Shasti story of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, when he criticized the pandas for putting starch cloth on Jagannath. It's impure, it's supposed to be washed. Jagannath slapped him severely. So why? He said, my devotees are just like me. He said they don't belong to any caste. devotee of Krishna is actually transcendental. It's an offense to think that a Vaishnava belongs to a specific caste, that he's a Brahmin, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Sudra, etc. Because the devotees of Krishna, they're beyond the Varnashram. The Varnashram is a platform to practice devotional service. It's the whole Vedic thing, which includes the activities of the Vedic culture, is Varnashram. So, but what's it for? Is to gradually purify one's existence till you come to the point of understanding your relationship with Krishna, and then you surrender to Krishna. So that's the actual point of Devi Varna. If you get stuck on a particular thing, then it's just ordinary Varnashram. But Devi, divine Varnashram, that means it's for Krishna. Lost. So anyway, if we're going to use these things to tempt people to fulfill their desires, then you can engage them like that, approach certain types of people. Prabhupada said you should find out novel ways and means. Novel means interesting, unique, different ways and means to engage the people in devotional service. But the idea is when we're given these other classes under different headings. Of course, basically, some of these are just Bhagavatam classes under the heading How to Control the Mind. They give a straight Bhagavatam class also. The idea is we want to lead them on past what the presentation is, how to control the mind. But you're going to give the full picture also. What do you do when your mind is controlled? Why do you want to control mind? Or what are you going to do? What is the purpose of having a controlled mind? And then you bring it on to Krishna like that. So we're going to maybe teach in a part of it, but we're going to explain what the whole of it, the real purpose of it, and give the people enlightenment and knowledge like that. So Varnashram, as we're saying, it's not for the devotees, because the culture is for the devotees, but the philosophy is not for the devotees, because they've understood the essence of it. We're taken to the path of surrendering to Krishna. So why do they need knowledge and purification? If they've already understood it and they're trying to achieve it, then what is the necessity of all these other knowledge? Not only knowledge, it says there's rituals, practices, charity, penance, austerities, visiting the holy places, studying all the scriptures. If one is a devotee, then what is the need of it? And if one does all these things and he's not a devotee, what is the use of it? So the essence is to become a devotee. But because the Varnashram system, it takes too long. So it's not really applicable as a goal in Kali Yuga. We only live in 100 years. Krishna says after many, many births of being a jnani, one surrenders to him. But you don't find any jnanis in Kali Yuga, practically. You don't find... How many self-realized souls do you know of all these yogis? How many of them are actually self-realized? So hardly anyone gets, you can hardly do it in Kali Yuga. So, but the culture we can follow, but the philosophy we won't accept. It'll take too long to get purified. There's no time in Kali Yuga to wait for that. So, but Prabhupada said, I'm telling you, the goal is to know Krishna, to surrender to Krishna. So if you take to this, accept this, then in essence we've saved millions of births, thousands of births of practice. even you take to it, there's no full realization, of course, but we're taken to it, sincerely taken to it. We've been saved thousands of births. You may go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So you've saved hundreds and hundreds of births because you're taken to the direct process of Krishna consciousness, which is on the transcendental platform. It's a direct process. It's not indirect. All these other processes are indirect. And then when you achieve success in one, then you disregard it. Then you go on to the next one, next one, till you actually achieve success. But that success, then you're serving Krishna as a pure devotee, because you're already very pure. But there's no time for the purificative processes in Kali Yuga. Karma, Gyan, Yoga, they don't work. You don't live long enough. And we don't have the ability, practically. So therefore, it's really the only way to actually surrender to Krishna as the essence. So there's a concession now in Kali Yuga. You can't do anything else. So we just take to this path of surrender to Krishna. And the principal means, our principal religious method is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We chant that in the association of devotees. These are the 9 main practices, quite simple practices that we have, which are very conducive for reawakening our relationship with Krishna. So we'd have a little conversation. We're going very long, a minute or two, and then Prabhupada would get something, connect on something which he's interested in or his thing, then and connect it with Krishna consciousness, and engage them like that. Oh, you do this? We use that stuff. You could help us in this area, kind of thing. So the Prabhupada used it to a very small degree. But it wasn't his programs are always, that was in conversations, but these programs are directly Krishna consciousness. That's the argument, because the devotees say Prabhupada was successful. He built this whole movement like that. There was no compromise. There was no compromise, right?
Hare Krishna. Can I give a comment? The comment is, I know some devotees in Delhi, they are preaching in the schools, and they even publish some books. So just like whatever you mentioned, they publish some books on the morality education. And when they are teaching in the school, because it's a government-controlled school, then if they write some materials to be put in the school's syllabus, that must be very strictly following some rules. So they cannot directly preach Krishna consciousness. They can only present in a moral way. But then, by doing these programs in the school, they can make friends with some students and maybe with some parents. Then they can invite them to the temple's program. Then they can do outreach. So if we judge from this kind of result, then we can support them. Not necessary to say completely no. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Lot of Chinese devotees, you see. You know how they started in China? You go to the square in plain clothes and talk English. And all the Chinese people want to learn English, so they come over and talk to you. And then they'd say, talk about yoga. That was your thing. Then you have a yoga class. And then you get them interested to come in the yoga class, and they didn't see anything. They didn't see like nothing, because it's dangerous at that time. Now it's still. So gradually like that, then those ones they could actually trust, they were sincere, then they would introduce them to Krishna after a long time, after many weeks. So that was the modus operandi in the beginning, and it was successful. I mean, if you're up against some hostile demons, you got to be intelligent. Okay, so Prabhupada ki jai.